For every unsuccessful female partner, fulfill their wishes. Earn points and fulfill your wishes. Who said that a female lead must become a stepping stone? The female lead may not become a female lead, but she can quietly eat melons on the side. Keywords of the novel. Quickly crossing the world to eat melons without pop-ups, quickly crossing the world to eat melons, 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 to eat the world, to eat melons, to eat melons, to eat the world, to eat melons, to eat the world, to eat melons, to eat the world, to eat melons, to eat. Chapter 1. Unmanned Women Supporting One. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Unmanned Women Supporting One. As soon as Zhang Yu arrived home, she saw that there was already a circle of people around her. Judging from their appearance, it was likely that she was looking forward to her return. Zhang Yu sighed in her heart. Alright, it seems like she's starting to enter the main body of the matter. Also, if the matter is resolved earlier, she can complete the task as soon as possible. That's right, Zhang Yu is a taskmaker. In layman's terms, he completes every task assigned by his client. She also didn't know how many taskers there were like her, nor did she know why the others had to do the task. Anyway, her goal is very clear, which is to complete tasks with high quality, take on more orders, in order to earn enough points and save the lives of their family of 3. After seeing Zhang Yu return home, Zhang Dague and his team said, "Xiao Yu, why are you late today?" "The leader has something to do with me." Zhang Yu knew that in the eyes of Zhang Dague, or anyone in the Zhang family, she was just a small financial figure. She is just a small person who doesn't need to be cared about, and if she can make them think about it, it's just asking her to do household chores. Zhang Dague really doesn't care why Zhang Yu left work late. "Your brother and they are all here, you go cook," he said. A group of people were around, and none of them knew how to cook. Everyone had to wait for her, and Zhang Yu was too lazy to say anything, just cooking a meal. To put it bluntly, we'll skip each meal. Today, when discussing the allocation of the house, she can also mention the matter of her going to work in another city. Come back in the future, she is just a guest. There's no reason to visit someone else's house. Let's have her cook as a guest. Zhang Yu went to the room to change clothes and then went to the kitchen to cook, while the rest of the Zhang family discussed the truth in the living room. The quick cooking didn't care about what was discussed outside. Anyway, whether it was Zhang Dague and his wife, or Zhang Guohua and his brothers and sisters, they were all very happy and were all assigned to the house. Only Zhang Yu, who lives with her parents, was not allocated a house because she was not married and will live with Zhang Dague and his wife in the future. Because they chose to move back, it will take a few years to get a house, which means they need to rent a house. This rent is paid by Zhang Dague and his wife, while the household expenses are paid by Zhang Yu. Originally, the 3 of them didn't spend much money. But who makes the Zhang family a very affectionate family? On Saturdays and Sundays, both sons and daughters come back to eat with their families, and Zhang Yu is the main force in buying groceries and cooking. Previously, Zhang Yu had to pay 2,000 yuan in living expenses each time. When everyone in the Zhang family spent it like this, she was a bit tired, and the money for buying groceries was always from the elderly couple. As a result, after moving out, every weekend, just buying groceries can consume more than 1,000 of Zhang Yu, and good fruits and ingredients should be purchased. I thought that after moving to a new house, Zhang Yu would be able to breathe a sigh of relief, but I didn't expect Zhang Yi, the eldest grandson of the Zhang family, to get married. Zhang Guohua and his wife had to prepare for their son's marriage. The Zhang Guohua couple, who have always cried out for poverty, of course aimed their attention at the wealthy Zhang Dague couple and successfully obtained 300,000 yuan from the old couple. Zhang Shouhua and his wife knew that under the sign of sending Zhang Xian abroad for study, they successfully obtained 300,000 yuan from the old couple. Zhang Hong and his wife were also unwilling to be outdone and received 100,000 yuan from the old couple. So, when the old couple saw that they didn't have much money on hand, they were unwilling to spend money on renovating the house. They said that the house would also be left for Zhang Yu in the future and asked her to pay for it. After moving into a new home, the old couple paid 2,000 yuan in monthly living expenses. They had no choice but to give birth to a great-grandson. As our ancestors, we didn't want to pay for the grandson's milk powder and diaper money. After Zhang Xian went abroad to study, in order to reduce the burden on her family, she also went out to work and earn money. When the old couple found out, they said that studying abroad means studying seriously, and promised to spend 40,000 yuan a year. In this way, the retirement salary of the elderly couple was spent at a rate of 70.8%, and Zhang Yu could only continue to maintain the face of the Zhang family, spending 70.8% of her monthly salary. Rarely, Zhang Guohua and his team kept quiet and said that Zhang Yu, who lived with his parents, was the one who benefited the most. Zhang Yu, who has always been unable to defend himself, has really spent a lot of money and even gained a reputation for being a gnawing old man. This is not the most tragic. The most tragic thing is that before the old couple passed away, they left a will saying that the house was left for Zhang Yi, the eldest grandson of the Zhang family. Originally, Zhang Yu was not unable to continue living, but the result was that Zhang Yi and his wife planned to change to a better living environment and sold the old couple's house. In this way, Zhang Yu had no place to live, and Zhang Yi and his wife looked down on their little aunt who had no money. How could they help solve her housing problem? Helplessly, Zhang Yu could only rent a house and live in a nursing home when she grew old. As for the brothers and sisters who promised to take care of her, they were all gone. There are still gatherings at the Zhang family, but they no longer bring Zhang Yu with them. The reason is that they go out to eat, fearing that it will increase the burden on this girl. After all, it is the AA system that pays. The original owner's request was very simple, which was to have a house to live in, so as not to become old and helpless. For Zhang Yu, this requirement is really simple, isn't it, just buying a house? Zhang Yu remembers that next year, the group company happened to withdraw from the internal subscription for a house, and this time she changed her job position. With her position and qualifications, of course, she couldn't miss it. As for the house of Zhang Dague and his wife, whoever decorates it will go ahead and she won't even think about it. It's just that she won't be the same as before. When it comes to contributing, she will have her share, but when it comes to dividing the house, she won't have her share. Such a fool, who wants to do it? After cooking for many years, Zhang Yu was very adept at cooking. Mom and Dad, we can eat now. After walking to the main room and saying, he continued to return to the kitchen to start serving dishes. Cooking is hers, but don't expect others to help with serving dishes and rice, that's impossible. Zhang Yu was busy again, and when everyone in the Zhang family heard the news that dinner could be served, they held their teacups in their hands. As for helping with the work, it is impossible. After Zhang Yu finished serving the food, Mom and Dad, big brother and sister in law, second brother and sister in law, big sister and brother in law, I have something to say. Today, the leader talked to me and said that a branch in another city needs an external financial personnel. Zhang Yu said before they mentioned the news of dividing the house. The leader decided to let me go, and I also agreed. I will be working out of town next Monday. The Zhang family didn't expect Zhang Yu to go to work in another city. They were really shocked. Don't be fooled by Zhang Dague's constant disdain for Zhang Yu's poor work, but when he heard that she was going to work in another city, he was truly stunned. How come it's okay to work outside of town? Yeah, that's right. Zhang Guohua knew they shouldn't worry about the elderly couple now. They could come back every week to eat ready-made food because of Zhang Yu. Unexpectedly, she had to work in another city and said, okay, how can we go out of town? Can't we not go? Everyone couldn't bear to let Zhang Yu go. After all, once Zhang Dague and his wife were feeling unwell after she left, it was their fault. Not to mention being able to come back to eat and drink every week. Although I can still come back to eat and drink, the problem is who cooks and who cleans up. Zhang Dague's eyes widened and he said, don't go. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. No Room Female Supporting 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. No Room Female Supporting 2. Not Allowed to Go. Zhang Yu smiled and said, "Dad, you don't often educate us. We need to listen to what our leaders tell us. How can you say, don't go, and not go? And Dad, you don't always think I'm not working hard enough. After all these years, I'm still a little financial person. I think that's right, it makes a lot of sense." Zhang Yu was very straightforward. She didn't always say that she didn't want to improve, but now she can demand improvement. Plus, my colleagues are all people with families, and the leader also said that I have a light burden. The leaders have all decided that as a subordinate, of course, I am obedient. The original owner listened to their family's advice and told the leader that they couldn't stay outside, but the leader was very dissatisfied. Although they didn't want to give them small shoes, those who the leader didn't like would definitely not have a promotion opportunity. Zhang Yu's words, how can everyone in the Zhang family still say what the old man once said, and how can they refute it? Zhang Dague is very unhappy. Although he has 4 children, he is accustomed to being taken care of by Zhang Yu. The house was originally allocated to the other children, and he feels a bit embarrassed. He was thinking about where to make up for it, but now he has no guilt in this regard in his heart. My home is about to be demolished, and if you insist on working in another city, the house won't have your share, Zhang Dague said angrily. Dad, it's okay. I'm not married. If I don't have a house, you give it to my brother, and my sister and the others will do it. Zhang Yu felt relieved when she said these words anyway, she has money in her hands. When it comes to buying a house from her employer or her house, don't listen to Zhang Dague's chatter. In their past lives, the old couple used a house to hang their original owner, but this time, I'm sorry, she said this move was ineffective. Upon hearing Zhang Yu's indifference towards the house, Zhang Dague's anger did not subside at all, but instead grew stronger and stronger. You don't have a house, what will you do when you get old? Zhang Dague asked in response. Well, don't worry, parents. Take care of yourself. I have considered my own affairs. In any case, I would never talk about buying a house, otherwise I don't know how to think about it. These words fell in the ears of the Zhang family, that is, Zhang Yu was thinking about the old couple's house. This made Zhang Guohua feel very uncomfortable in his heart. After all, he is the eldest son of the family. According to the family's rules, he takes the big head. As for the house, it was divided into 4 parts, 1 for each of the 3 siblings and 1 for the elderly couple. His eldest son didn't get the big head yet. I originally thought he would give birth to the only grandson of the Zhang family. Isn't the old couple's house given to their grandson? Unexpectedly, Zhang Yu was also staring at her, even if she wasn't married. But if she gets old and dizzy, and decides to get married, the house will be cheaper for no one. No, Zhang Guohua thought of this and felt that he needed to talk to Zhang Dague and his wife. In short, this house can be used for Zhang Yu to live in, but not for her. As for the old couple's house, of course, it should be left to the eldest son of the Zhang family, Changsan Kaicheng. Zhang Shouhua and Zhang Hong were also unhappy in their hearts. In their view of Zhang Yu, apart from being immature, they were also immature. Even though they were unmarried and had no offspring, they still thought about their parents' house. I really don't know why the bald person behind her thigh is still thinking about the house. I really don't know why she's arguing about these things. Zhang Dague and his wife were also unhappy, thinking that they didn't have much to do, so Zhang Yu started calculating their house. How to arrange my house in the future and who to leave it for are things that our elderly couple are considering. You don't need to consider, said Zhang Dague coldly. Do you think she's planning to take the house under the name of Zhang Dague and his wife? Zhang Yu noticed that everyone's faces had changed greatly and knew that was probably what they thought. Zhang Yu couldn't help but shake her head. She was a group of selfish people, thinking that everyone else was selfish. I know. Alright, let's eat. Zhang Yu quickly ate, then tidied up the table and went back to the room to pack things. She has already figured out how to package and mail everything that needs to be shipped. After arriving there, she will stay at the hotel first and the company will pay to rent a house. She is all considering whether to buy a small single room when she arrives there. Anyway, regardless of whether she buys a house or not, the rent subsidy will be given to her. After all, this money is also a few thousand yuan. Some of it is given to the landlord, so it's better for her to take it on her own. I remember the person who lived outside in her previous life bought a small house and moved in. When she came back, she could make several 100,000 yuan by selling the small house. This time, Zhang Yu plans to do the same. If it's not for sale, he can continue to rent out the house. Zhang Yu went back to his room to tidy up his things, while everyone in the Zhang family continued to discuss how much compensation should be required for demolition in the main hall. Pan Wan looked at the enthusiastic discussion crowd and remembered what Zhang Yu had said about going out of town. Although the old man said they had other children, they would take care of one or two. Even though Zhang Guohua and the others all promised to take good care of them, for her, whether it is the eldest daughter.in.law or the second daughter.in.law, how good can she be to her in-laws? As for Zhang Hong, although Pan Wan also likes this daughter, she knows that this daughter is just talking and really expects her to work. Let's forget about it. She still thinks that Zhang Yu is the best at taking care of the two of them and wants to work hard. Gently pushing the door into Zhang Yu's room, the old lady found herself packing things. Are you packing up your things? Zhang Yu was not surprised to find out that it was Pan Wan. Don't look at Zhang Dague as the one in charge at home, it's actually up to this old lady. Yeah, I'm going there to report on Monday. I plan to go there on Saturday. You can clean up, and then adjust your status, so that you can better start on Monday. And if possible, I would like to take advantage of the weekend to see the house, so that after the things are mailed there, I can directly open them at the rented house. Can't you not go? Pan Wan still wanted to work harder. Zhang Yu packed up all the clothes to take away and said, Mom, you know, the leaders have already spoken, can I say no? I definitely can't say no. Mom, don't worry, my brothers are all filial and they will take good care of you. Don't be too domineering then, just let my brother and his team do whatever they need. Anyway, didn't you say that their eldest son was filial? It's just a reminder for them. At the same time, it can also let Zhang Guohua and his team know that taking care of the elderly is not an easy task. Also, by the way, let Zhang Dague and his wife see how filial children they think are. Sometimes when it comes to talking about filial piety, it still depends on actions. Zhang Guohua and the others are all staring at the wallets of the elderly couple, just to let them know that wanting the elderly couple's wallets also requires paying a price. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Unmanned Women 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Unmanned Women 3. Zhang Yu packed her luggage while comforting Pan Wan. Isn't this how you can often see your grandson? Knowing that neither of them held a higher position than Zhang Yi in the hearts of the old couple, they kept comforting the old lady. Anyway, she also knows that the old couple's so-called reluctance is not to trust her daughter, whether she can adapt to working alone in another city. Their so-called reluctance is feeling like they are missing a hard-working nanny. Zhang Yu felt that this elderly couple may not know that the other children may not be reliable, but in their hearts, the 3 children above have a happy family and good work. On the other hand, my youngest daughter, who has been working for so many years and is still a small financial figure, and has not yet married, is just a drag on the family. Mom, what do you think? Big Brother and his team not only have houses, but they will live with you in the same community so that you can see your grandchildren often. As for cooking, my brother and his team will make delicious food and send you 2 elders a portion. Isn't that enough for you to eat? Zhang Yu is really a very sincere suggestion. She really thinks that this suggestion cannot be better. Of course, as for how Zhang Guohua and the others think when the time comes, she won't worry about it. Anyway, they don't often imagine living close to Zhang Dague and his wife. How should they take care of them? It's about time for them to perform, I just don't know how they will perform given such a good opportunity. She felt that she could take good care of Zhang Dague and his wife alone, and there was no reason why the three siblings couldn't take good care of Zhang Dague and his wife. That's right. Pan Wan thinks it's quite right. This way, we can no longer see our grandchildren on weekends, but we can see them every day. Pan Wan felt more and more satisfied as she thought about it, but she wouldn't just let Zhang Yu go. After all, she has been used to eating the dishes made by Zhang Yu for so many years. My son and I have been working hard for a week, and taking care of the elderly couple is also quite tiring. On weekends, we still need Zhang Yu to come back and take care of them. Although you are also in your 30s, we should be very reassured about you, but you never went out of the market to study, and your work has always been at your doorstep. We don't trust your sudden departure to work in another city. You should go home on the weekend. It's just a couple of days on the weekend to get busy, which also makes Guohua and his team feel relaxed. My God, even though she knows she has already gone to work in another city, she hasn't offended her yet. She even hopes that she can come back on the weekend. Zhang Yu can only say that this old lady looks kind, but she is actually full of bad water. No, Mom, round-trip tickets are also expensive. The company cannot reimburse round-trip tickets every week, after all, a round-trip ticket costs thousands. She wouldn't say that the company can reimburse her round-trip tickets once a month. If she did, she might still hope to come back once a month. And I just arrived over there, so I'm sure I'm also busy. So I'm sorry, she can't help with the moving work. The original owner was so busy with moving things that he lost about 10 pounds. Anyway, Zhang Dague and his wife still say that they are not doing well and that things are not well organized. In short, she won't do this thankless task this time, let's just let Zhang Guohua and his team do it. Anyway, there are also 9 members of the 3 families, so we can definitely handle the moving matters in a few weekends. Upon hearing this, Pan Wan suddenly became unhappy and said, "Aren't you planning to help us move? You should know that compared to weekly family gatherings, the most important thing is the matter of moving at home." Since receiving the news of moving, the old lady has rehearsed it. That's because there are a lot of things in the old house, and both she and Zhang Dague are people who are reluctant to throw things away. As a result, there are many things to take away. Moving and organizing things doesn't require much time, and as the couple gets older, they don't have the time or energy to tinker with it, so they can only offer suggestions and other things on the sidelines. The main force for moving still needed Zhang Yu, but to my surprise, she couldn't even help with the move. It's not that I don't want to help, it's because I'm busy with work. Zhang Yu knew that the old lady was in a hurry. After all, obedient and capable laborers were going to other places, and being in a good mood was the problem. But for her, her mood is really good. But now, she can't show it. Mom, you and my dad often say that work is important and we should prioritize work. I believe you will understand me, right? I also hope to be your pride. When mentioning me to family and friends, they would say that although I started late, I was still catching up head on. Mom, don't worry, I've made up my mind. I'll study hard for 1 or 2 years, and strive to get more professional titles. Without these people causing various disturbances on the weekend, she is truly confident that she will definitely get some certificates. Upon hearing these words, Pan Wan felt various anxieties. She always felt that Zhang Yu's words were just a rhythm that was unlikely to come back in the future. Xiaoyu, aren't you planning to come back and see us in the future? Pan Wan didn't even notice. When she said these words, her voice actually shook a little. If possible, of course Zhang Yu hopes it's like this. If it's not enough, he knows it's impossible, he retorted loudly. This is my home, where my parents, brothers, and sisters are all present. If possible, of course, how far away can I be from you? I will always come back once in a month or two. Mom, you can rest assured. I can't possibly not come back. Zhang Yu kept making promises, and of course, she was not lying to the old lady, but really planning to do so. Without coming back, how could one know how chaotic the Zhang family is? The three closely related individuals, for the sake of money and who will take care of the elderly couple, will put in more effort, and it is uncertain how many tricks will come out. And these are things that must come back to know, otherwise they are all masters of acting, and they wouldn't let Zhang Yu know about these contradictions. Only by waiting for her to come back and take a walk can we know how deep their internal conflicts are, and it is also the best opportunity to whitewash ourselves. I come back once a month or two and then behave well in front of the elderly couple. I wonder if the fickle elderly couple would think that among their 4 children, only Zhang Yu is the best to them. But that was just her reflection. Even if the old couple had such thoughts, they wouldn't say them out loud. After all, in their hearts, Zhang Guohua and the 3 of them were the face of the Zhang family. Han Wan listened to Zhang Yu's promise and kept staring at her. You promised to come back. Of course, Zhang Yu had no problem. Even if she felt that the old lady kept tossing and turning and asked her to make a promise, she still felt troublesome, but she obediently made a promise. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. No room female supporting for you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 No room female supporting for Zhang Yu has packed everything that needs to be packed and is waiting to go to the company tomorrow to complete the procedures. She will also go to the logistics company to pick up some cardboard boxes and prepare to move. When Zhang Guohua and his companions left, they all stood at the stairwell and shouted to the upstairs, Xiaoyu, let's go. For Zhang Guohua and his team, this evening really made them uncomfortable. When they were chatting before, Zhang Yu didn't just boil water after a busy schedule. He poured them water, prepared snacks, and prepared fruits. They are responsible for shouting people out loud, and as for the work, it's all Zhang Yu's responsibility to be as leisurely as possible. Unexpectedly, after washing the dishes today, Zhang Yu quickly went upstairs to tidy up her things. Not going downstairs throughout the journey, let alone boiling water to make tea and preparing fruits for them, can be said to make them really uncomfortable. What worries them even more is that in the future, when Zhang Yu goes to work in another city, they should not think of coming over to eat ready-made food on weekends. What makes them feel even more disheartened is that Zhang Dagui and his wife are currently with Zhang Yu, and the old couple is feeling unwell because of her busy schedule. Once she goes out of town, isn't it their fault that the old couple feels uncomfortable? Zhang Guohua was in a bad mood when he thought of this. He took the elderly to the hospital for treatment, took leave, deducted his salary, and had to run up and down, making various troubles. Not to mention that the elderly couple are not feeling well, they definitely cannot cook for themselves. They have to cook for them, take care of them in the shower, and do household chores, etc. Zhang Guohua glanced at his wife Jiang Yun next to him, thinking that he should not expect her to take care of Zhang Dagui and his wife. Jiang Yun was originally in a good mood today. Her mother-in-law's house is going to be demolished, and they will soon be able to get a house. When Zhang Yi gets married in this way, there will be a wedding house, and there is no need to spend money to buy a house. As for decoration, there are also savings books for the elderly couple. Their retirement salary is quite high, and coupled with the marriage of their eldest grandson, don't the elderly couple need to pay? I didn't expect Zhang Yu to catch everyone off guard. This girl is going to work in another city. Originally, for Zhang Dagui and his wife, Jiang Yun was just using his mouth to make the old couple happy, but as for the work, someone was present. Now it's good, once Zhang Yu goes out of town, she can guarantee that the responsibility of taking care of the elderly will become the eldest son's responsibility. For someone like Zhang Guohua who doesn't know how to work, it's better to expect him to take care of Zhang Dagui and his wife than to expect her to take care of them. Jiang Yun became more and more angry as he thought, Zhang Guohua, what's wrong with your sister? It's such a big deal to work outside of town, and she doesn't even discuss it with her family. Zhang Guohua's mood was already chaotic enough, but he didn't expect Jiang Yun to be muttering incessantly on the side. Discuss. Discuss what? The leaders have already talked to her, what do you want her to do? After all, she is not an only child and has no family burden. The leader thinks she is the best candidate to go to another city, and their leader is not wrong either. The leader wanted to talk to her, but she couldn't refuse politely. Jiang Yun didn't expect that even at this time, Zhang Guohua would still help Zhang Yu speak. If it weren't for reason telling her not to get angry and not to argue with Zhang Guohua, she really couldn't control it. I think your sister is because the house doesn't have her share, Jiang Yun thought more and more. Zhang Yu would agree to work in another city because of this reason. Zhang Guohua actually felt that Zhang Yu would agree to work in another city, and he should have thoughts and dissatisfaction in his heart. But he has a different opinion on Jiang Yun's speculation or idea. How could it be related to the house? Today we learned about the demolition of our house, and our parents are planning to divide the house into 4 parts, without Zhang Yu's share. We all just found out, how could Zhang Yu know? After she arrived home, she was busy cooking dinner again, and we didn't mention that the house didn't have her share. She said before dinner that she was going to work in another city. That is to say, before she said she wanted to work in another city, she didn't even know that the house demolition was not her responsibility. Jiang Yun's reason for Zhang Guohua was blocked, although she had an intuition that Zhang Yu would go to work in another city, which was definitely related to the fact that the house did not have her share. But as Zhang Guohua said, with Zhang Yu's words at the forefront, there is no evidence to prove that she knew early on that the house did not have her share. That's how I feel, otherwise why would she go out of town? Jiang Yun said angrily. And what we need to discuss now is, once Zhang Yu goes to work in another city, what do you think your parents will do? Although they are currently in good health, as you know, they have to go to the hospital every quarter. Previously, it was Zhang Yu who accompanied them. What will happen in the future? I'll tell you, I'm also very busy. Jiang Yun knew that there was no way to change Zhang Yu's job transfer. If that's the case, then we need to discuss the issue of Zhang Dagui and his wife's retirement in the future. This is the most important issue, and many things need to be regulated now. Zhang Guohua knew what Jiang Yun meant, so he discussed with both Zhang Shouhua and Zhang Hong about how to divide classes to take care of the elderly couple. For their brothers and sisters to take care of Zhang Dagui and his wife, Zhang Guohua certainly has no problem. After all, they are their parents. But in this way, it also brings a big problem, and that problem is. Have you ever thought about it? If they also participate in taking care of their parents' house, I can guarantee that even if Zhang Hong doesn't snatch it, the other 2 will not compete. After all, it's a house, no matter what, it's still a matter of tens of thousands. Who wouldn't be bothered? Jiang Yun suppressed Zhang Guohua's words. Yes, as long as Zhang Shouhua and the others take care of the elderly couple, they will never give up on the house under Zhang Dagui's name. At that time, could it be said that if they gave birth to Zhang Yi, who is the eldest son and grandson of the Zhang family, they would have to share more houses? I was originally thinking that the house would be for the elderly couple and Zhang Yu to live in, and my parents would let Zhang Yu take care of that girl. The second, third are too embarrassed to ask for a house like this. Before my parents leave, I'll talk to them and see if we can transfer the house directly to Xiaoyi and let Zhang Yu stay. No matter how much dissatisfaction the second person has, they can only endure it. But I didn't expect Zhang Yu to just go out of town and make it clear that she didn't participate in these things. We're in a difficult situation. But Zhang Guohua had already considered everything after knowing that Zhang Yu wouldn't get married. He thought this was the best way, but he didn't expect that Zhang Yu would just let go of the burden. It was really despicable. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. No Room Female Supporting 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. No Room Female Supporting 5. Jiang Yun heard Zhang Guohua's thoughts for the first time and knew she was anxious, but he was even more anxious. What should we do then? Jiang Yun was also panicked. Yes, if Zhang Shouhua and the others were to take care of the elderly, they would definitely ask for a house and money. I don't know either. Zhang Guohua knew that Jiang Yun was panicking now, and he should give him a reassuring pill. Unfortunately, he didn't know what to do and was also in a state of confusion. Zhang Shouhua and Zhang Hong, although also dissatisfied with Zhang Yu's move to work in another city, have various grievances. But compared to the more anxious couple Zhang Guohua, they are actually much better because they have a more profound idea. Zhang Yu has gone to work in another city, so he definitely won't be able to continue taking care of the elderly. When the time comes, the house under the old man's name will only be able to accommodate 4 people. How can't we? After all, we've all worked hard and taken care of our parents. We put in effort to take care of the elderly couple. Why doesn't the house under their name have our share? Isn't Zhang Shouhua and the others right? Do Zhang Degui and his wife have any ideas about the assets under their name? They just know that even if they have ideas, it's not something they can imagine. I didn't expect that just when they thought it had nothing to do with them, the fact told them that they still had a chance. How could this not be exciting? Zhang Yu didn't care if Zhang Guohua and the 3 of them started calculating with each other, but she was busy tidying up the house. She really doesn't understand. Even when they are at home, they will spit out any food residue in a container instead of casually spitting it on the ground. The result here is that they are comfortable and clean, and it has nothing to do with them. As Zhang Yu tidied up, he cursed his mother in his heart. He had never seen such a person who didn't show up. In the end, she had no choice but to comfort herself again. Forget it, they were just like the tails of rabbits. If they wanted such treatment in the future, they would have to work on their own. She relied on these hopes to once again tidy up the entire hall. When she finished tidying up the room, she thought she would face Zhang Degui and his wife directly, but to her surprise, they had already returned to their room. Look at the time, okay, it's already 10 o'clock. For the elderly couple, it's time to fall asleep. I also know that if we don't talk today, we should also talk to her tomorrow, but wouldn't it be good if we could delay 1 day? Once the procedures are completed tomorrow, the transfer of her to a subsidiary in another city can be considered a complete decision. Zhang Yu went to the bathroom to take a shower, then tidied up the bathroom again. After a busy day, it was 11 o'clock again. It's true that I have to work during the day and take care of a large group of people when I get home at night. I will depart early on Wednesday today, Thursday tomorrow, Friday the day after tomorrow, and Saturday morning. Roaring, Zhang Yu has already made up his mind. After completing the procedures tomorrow, he will immediately book the plane ticket and leave early. This weekend's gathering will be their responsibility. It doesn't make sense. After calculating for them, I have to wait on them to eat and drink. Zhang Yu lay in bed, sighing comfortably. When we get there, we must buy a good bed and then replace it with a good mattress. In fact, the original owner had bought good beds and mattresses before, but when Jiang Yun saw them, he had a lot to say. Zhang Yi is getting old and wants to buy a better bed and mattress, but the price is a bit expensive, and the couple is reluctant to sell. Next came a familiar scene, where the bed and mattress that the original owner had not slept on for long became Zhang Yi's. Even if the original owner's salary increased afterwards, he did not buy any new beds and mattresses, so he was worried that he would either be interested in Zhang Yi or Zhang Xin and the others. After she arrives in another city, don't worry that someone will take a liking to her bed. And she can also decorate the house according to her wishes, such as buying a coffee machine or a tea table, so that on weekends, if you want to drink coffee, you can drink coffee, and if you want to drink tea, you can drink tea. Zhang Yu is truly full of various expectations for his future life. The next day, I went to the workplace and quickly completed all the transfer procedures, and my work was quickly handed over to others. As she was about to finish work, the leader called Zhang Yu over again, which surprised her and made her think about calling her something. The leader saw Zhang Yu and quickly asked her to sit down. He quickly hung up the phone and said, "Xiao Zhang, what date were you planning to go there? Saturday has passed, Zhang Yu hesitated for a moment. We'll be there on Saturday, adjust on Sunday, and start work on Monday. Your work has already been handed over, haven't you? The leader changed the topic. Another question is when we originally planned to depart, and now another question is whether our work has been handed over. At this moment, Zhang Yu has only one thought in her heart, which is, if there are no accidents, do you plan to let her go early? However, these are all her own thoughts. Whether this is really the case or not depends on the leadership. The leader hesitated for a moment and said, I received a call from that side today, saying that if possible, I hope we can come over earlier. Xiao Zhang, can you come over tomorrow? Coincidentally, the company has a car coming over. The leader said it was based on Zhang Yu's opinion. She knows that what the leader means by discussing with you is actually only accepting opinions that she agrees with, not opposing. I have no objection, and the things are almost ready. Zhang Yu said he could leave at any time. Zhang Yu cooperated so well, and the leader thought for a moment, send a business car tomorrow. If you can take everything with the car, take it all away. This is a big surprise. Zhang Yu was still thinking about whether to go to the logistics company tomorrow morning. The result is now good, and you can leave with the car. That's enough, that's enough. Thanks to not wanting to see the rest of the Zhang family yesterday, I collected my things early and tidied them up. I'll just pack up again when I go back today. Take all the things I need to take with me, but if I can take anything with me, I won't take it. After arriving there, many clothes need to be changed, which makes it easy to play. The leader saw Zhang Yu's cooperation and asked him to leave early. It's already 4:30, and Zhang Yu is speechless about leaving early. Do you still consider leaving work half an hour early? Forget it, being able to finish work half an hour earlier is already good, but we can't expect too much. Zhang Yu returned to her position, packed all her personal belongings and prepared to leave. Colleagues thought she had to hold on until this weekend before going to work in another city, but they didn't expect that she would have to go to another city tomorrow. Everyone bid farewell to Zhang Yu one after another, even though she was still in the same company, she just went to work in a subsidiary company. The theoretical meaning is that Zhang Yu has been in office for a few years in the past, and if he can still be transferred back in the future, that's just theoretical. Many people are transferred to subsidiary companies, whether to work in other places or stay in local subsidiaries, and basically do not return. Zhang Yu knows that although she is working in a subsidiary company in another city, even if her salary increases and there are generous subsidies, in the eyes of these colleagues, she is equivalent to a distribution. For her, whether she can return to work in the group company is no longer a concern. Although the situation is good, it is easy to be implicated due to its strong influence. On the contrary, if you stay in the subsidiary below, you will have as much leisure as you want. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Unmanned Female Supporting Actress 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Unmanned Female Supporting Actress 6. Zhang Yu returned home with something because she arrived a little early, which startled Zhang Dague and his wife. Has the procedure been completed? Zhang Dague thought for a whole night last night, hoping that if possible, she could go to the leader and discuss her unwillingness to work in another city. Unexpectedly, Zhang Yu brought back everything she had left in the office. Zhang Yu nodded and said, yes, something happened at the subsidiary. I have to go there tomorrow. Zhang Dague didn't expect that he just delayed a little bit, and the matter was finally settled like this. How fast? Pan Wan was also stunned. How come we have to go there so soon? Zhang Yu nodded and said, yes, there's nothing we can do. There's a big project going on over there, and I'm one of the people sent down from above. I need to participate in the entire process. Zhang Dague let out a soft sigh, knowing that there was no way to change Zhang Yu's mind. In that case, he could only accept it. After you arrive over there, work hard. Zhang Yu hummed and said, I will. Looking up at Pan Wan, Mom, I should be quite busy when I get there. I may not have time to come back. If you move then, let my brothers help more. Don't tire yourself out. On weekends, just let my brothers go shopping and cook, and don't be busy either. She wouldn't say anything like not having weekend dinners. After all, this is the inheritance of the Zhang family. It's not her cooking, whoever does it is their responsibility. Pan Wan looked at Zhang Yu, who was about to set off and still reminded him, don't worry, your brothers are very filial. She knew that the matter of moving was completely beyond relying on Zhang Yu to come back and help tidy up, or could only rely on Zhang Guohua and the others. Zhang Dague nodded and said, by the way, don't worry, there are your brothers and them. By the way, Mom and Dad, we're going out for dinner today, and then I have to pack my things. Although everything has already been packed, there are still many things that need to be packed, so it's better not to mess around cooking anymore. Normally, Zhang Dague would mutter and complain about wasting food when going out, but thinking about the many things Zhang Yu has to do, let your mother cook. Zhang Yu was actually a bit worried when she said that just now. She was worried that Zhang Dague would curse, but she didn't expect Pan Wan to cook. Thinking of this, Zhang Yu looked anxiously at Pan Wan. Although she used to cook, the problem was that her skills were not very good. Later on, when Zhang Yu grew up, he studied cooking well and completely took control of the kitchen in her hands. Since she can cook, Pan Wan hasn't cooked anymore, she just heats up the food. The result is good now, and she still needs to cook. Zhang Yu really can't expect whether the food Pan Wan cooks can be eaten. But regardless of whether she can eat it or not, she just eats a meal, but Zhang Dague is different. Although the old man doesn't know how to cook and doesn't want to cook, he has a picky mouth. Zhang Yu is really worried that Pan Wan's cooking skills may make Zhang Dague picky. In fact, if possible, she thinks that the couple's cooking skills are not very good anyway, and they are also picky about their mouths. In fact, if possible, they can hire a nanny. If the couple is reluctant to hire a nanny, then hire an hourly worker. Although it may be an additional expense, at least it will be easy. But in the same way, she cannot speak out. Don't be fooled by the high retirement salary of Zhang Dague and his wife, it doesn't mean they are willing to spend money hiring people. Pan Wan didn't expect Zhang Dague to ask her to cook. She was really stunned and said, I. She doesn't even know how many years she hasn't cooked, but now she's being notified to cook. What should she do? Her first reaction was to ask Zhang Yu to cook, as she had already packed almost everything yesterday. But she really dare not say, after all, Zhang Yu can cook today, but tomorrow, she won't be cooking yet. I'll do it, Pan Wan sighed in her heart, although she was very unwilling, there was nothing she could do. Zhang Yu thought that Pan Wan would be unhappy and asked her to cook, but to her surprise, she just agreed. Dad, my mom hasn't cooked for a long time. Zhang Yu thought for a moment and decided to forget it for their safety. We always have to learn how to cook, Zhang Dague said coldly. Otherwise, after you leave, won't we eat? What does this mean? Is it not good for her to work harder and faster before? Forget it, I'll go cook. I'll stand on the last shift. If Pan Wan's food is not good and she even has diarrhea, this is the rhythm of the whole family going to the hospital. And she could also imagine that after Zhang Guohua and the others found out about this, it was her fault again. She said she had to leave and didn't even know how to stand on the last post. As for how Zhang Dague and his wife will handle 3 meals a day after she leaves, it is not her responsibility. But just because the old couple had just given Zhang Guohua a house, it is estimated that they are still willing to come and cook. I just don't know if the rest of the people have any objections after these days continue for a while. Or to put it another way, whoever's turn is to cook, comes here to eat, which not only saves the family's expenses, but may also be a good way. Zhang Yu really doesn't understand. As for Zhang Guohua's family, because Jiang Yun works in a company, her conditions are considered poor. However, her unit also has good efficiency, and overall, her income is also good. As for Zhang Xiuhua and his wife, they are both high school teachers and they also do tutoring on a regular basis, with a decent income. Zhang Hong and his wife both serve as civil servants in government agencies, and their income and benefits are actually quite good. As a result, these three families are all able to grow old or not, one by one crying for poverty. Hey, Zhang Yu sighed in her heart. Forget it, it's their fault that they like to cry about poverty. She's more willing to work hard and earn money on her own than facing her palms. In fact, she felt that these three families were not without money, but in order to cry about poverty, she simply stored the money in the bank and didn't want to go and buy a house. As a result, they missed the era of the bottom price of housing prices. When they saw the rise in housing prices and planned to buy a house, they realized that they thought a lot of money was not enough to buy a house. The three families are all reluctant to part ways. After all, money is spent on houses. Once they need money, where do they go to get it? Just like this, the three families hesitated and hesitated. When they made up their minds and decided to buy a house, they found that the housing prices had already risen again, which made them angry and decided not to buy a house. When they saw the constantly rising housing prices later on, they finally made up their mind to sell and buy a house, but the money they could have spent on buying a big house turned out to be limited to buying a small one. Zhang Yu found it interesting to think about it. I don't know if they have thought about using the money they obtained from studying Zhang Dagui and his wife for the right path. I don't know how much money they have under their name. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Unmarried Female Supporting Actress 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Unmarried Female Supporting Actress 7. Zhang Guohua has been feeling all sorts of unhappiness all day today. When he thought about the house that was supposed to be secure, it just flew away like this, and he was really in a bad mood. He is still considering whether to reveal his elder brother's identity and continue talking to Zhang Yu. He didn't expect that Zhang Yu would go to a subsidiary in another city so soon. Zhang Guohua holding his phone. Are you going out of town so soon? Zhang Dagui nodded on the other end of the phone and said, yes, I have to take a car to leave tomorrow morning. Besides informing Zhang Guohua of this news, Zhang Dagui also wanted to see the attitude of Zhang Guohua and his wife. Zhang Dagui. Boss, as you know, since your little sister can cook, your mother has never cooked again. Zhang Dagui. It used to be nothing, after all, your sister is not getting married, so we don't have to worry about not having food to eat. Zhang Dagui let out a soft sigh and said, but the key issue now is that your sister hasn't gone out of town. Your mother doesn't know how to cook, so eating with you and your mother will become a problem in the future. Upon hearing this, Zhang Guohua's heart skipped a beat. Yes, why did he forget about this? Originally, Pan Wan's cooking skills were not very good, but with Zhang Yu's help. But now that Zhang Yu is going out of town, can Pan Wan's craftsmanship satisfy the picky Zhang Dagui? In fact, not to mention that Zhang Dagui is satisfied, even if it is Pan Wan's words, it is expected that there will be no way to be satisfied. What Zhang Guohua is thinking now is, what does Zhang Dagui have to say when he gives him this phone number? Is it possible to have them cook, if possible? Zhang Guohua looked up at Jiang Yun, who was tidying up the table. After all, the dishes cooked by his wife were even more delicious than those cooked by Pan Wan, but compared to Zhang Yu's skills, they were really much worse. Jiang Yun noticed that Zhang Guohua was staring at her and couldn't help but hesitate for a moment. What's wrong? Zhang Dagui thought he had already said so, shouldn't sensible Zhang Guohua take the initiative to bring it up? Unexpectedly, he had already said so much, but he didn't take the initiative to speak out, which made the old man very angry. Zhang Dagui thought for a moment and said, forget it, I'll call your brother. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Guohua was immediately inspired. He knew that no matter what, Zhang Xiuhua must not receive this call, otherwise he would definitely agree. Even if he doesn't agree, there's still Zhang Hong. Zhang Guohua knows that for this girl, as long as there are benefits, it's enough. Zhang Guohua didn't discuss with Jiang Yun either. Dad, I'm here. I was just thinking, should Jiang Yun go to your place to cook and then go home to cook, or should our family of 3 come to your place for dinner? Zhang Dague doesn't care so much, just get the result they want. Zhang Dague. Don't be so troublesome. Cooking back and forth is too much trouble. You can just let your family eat directly. Zhang Dague. Tomorrow, let your mother go buy groceries, and then let Jiang Yun come over directly to cook after work. Zhang Dague. By the way, Zhang Yu is about to go out of town and there is no way to help tidy up her things at home. I think Jiang Yun will help with the cleaning. Zhang Dague. Coincidentally, Xiao Yu has gone to another city and there are available rooms at home. You happen to live at home and can also help tidy up your things. Zhang Dague thinks he's really too smart, and that's just coming up with the best solution. Even if they go to cook, they still have to pack their things. Zhang Guohua really doesn't know how to tell Jiang Yun about this. Zhang Guohua didn't even know how to hang up the phone. He was thinking about how to organize language, but when he looked up, he found Jiang Yun staring at him. Zhang Guohua was startled and said, daughter.in.law, don't scare me. I really scared you guys a lot. Although Jiang Yun doesn't know what Zhang Dague said on the phone, he also knows that there will definitely be no delicious food. Otherwise, he wouldn't have this attitude. Jiang Yun sat opposite Zhang Guohua and said, go ahead, what did your father say on the other end of the phone? Don't hide it from me, as you know, it's easy for me to know. Keep it from her. Zhang Guohua smiled and said, I never thought about hiding anything from you, that tomorrow. After explaining what Zhang Dague said on the phone, it was not surprising to see Jiang Yun's face change drastically. Jiang Yun knew that phone call was not a good thing, but she didn't expect it to be so deceitful. If possible, Jiang Yun really wanted to hit him hard and say, you haven't even discussed this big matter with me. Don't you know how excessive you are? Don't you not know your sister's cooking skills? Do you think my cooking skills can compare to hers? Jiang Yun knew that Zhang Dague and his wife were very picky about their mouths. Your sister's cooking skills are really good enough, right? But in the eyes of your parents, it's still not good enough. Jiang Yun dared not even think that if she were to cook, the couple would not know how to evaluate it, and they should not expect them to give a good review at all. Also, they asked me to tidy up things. Why don't they think about it? There's so much garbage at home, and your parents can't bear to throw it away. Then I tidied up. How big are they planning to rent? Your sister was originally here, so renting a 2-bedroom or even a 3-bedroom house would be fine. But now that they are the only couple, they can't rent a 3-bedroom house, can they? But with all their things, I'm worried that renting a 2-bedroom house won't be enough for them to tinker with. Jiang Yun got angry when she thought about it, and I have to go to work, I'm also quite busy. I really thought your company was the same. When I got to work and had nothing to do, I just picked up a book and looked like it was safe and sound until after work. We're so busy during work hours that we're flying high. As a result, I am busy at work and still busy after work. Jiang Yun kept muttering, in short, she was not willing to do these things. Zhang Guohua listened to Jiang Yun muttering incessantly, well, I'm not just for the house under the old man's name. If possible, I don't want to do that either. But there's no way, I can also not interface, but if I don't interface, who do you think I'll turn to for this? Don't you know that person from my dad yet? If there is no response from me, he will go find the second person and the others. I can't guarantee what will happen then. Jiang Yun originally had more complaints, but upon hearing Zhang Guohua's words, she immediately didn't speak up. She knew it was all the truth, and if they didn't give a definite answer, they would definitely be cheaper than the second, third, and others. Jiang Yun became more and more angry as he thought, you really mean Xiao Yu? She said she would leave without giving anyone a chance to buffer. You said your mom, why is there so much garbage? I don't even know when to clean up, by the way, I can't be the only one cleaning up the house. Jiang Yun thinks that Zhang Shouhua and the others have all obtained the house, and they should also have their share in tidying up the house. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Unmarried Female Supporting Actress 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Unmarried Female Supporting Actress 8. Regarding Jiang Yun's proposal to go, Zhang Guohua remained silent and looked at her with such determination. Seeing him like this, Jiang Yun became angry and said, "You tell me how you're doing. You're still the big brother in the family, and you ended up living worse than anyone else. No, I need to talk to Xiaoyu. After all, these are also her parents. How could she ignore them?" Jiang Yun also knew that apart from Zhang Yu, who was obedient and capable of doing things, everyone in the Zhang family really shouldn't expect them to work. What are you going to talk to her about? Zhang Guohua looked bewildered and didn't understand why he was looking for her properly. We need to talk to her, Jiang Yun said with a serious expression. For example, when it comes to moving, she can't just ignore it. So many things, can't they all rely on me? Or do we expect you or your good younger brother and sister? Jiang Yun retorted rudely. You don't know what's going on with your parents, do you? Jiang Yun knew that asking Zhang Guohua to pack his things was not something to consider at all. Zhang Guohua hesitated, so let's go now. What else should we do? Jiang Yun glanced at Zhang Guohua and said, speed. Jiang Yun got angry when she thought about it. I really don't understand. There's no way I've changed positions. I should be so boastful. I notified you yesterday that I'll hand over my work today and leave tomorrow. Jiang Yun has not changed her job position before, and she still knows a little about the process. In her opinion, this matter is just so unreliable. Song Zhang Guohua certainly listened to his wife's words. Do you think that girl Zhang Yu already knew about this? Otherwise. Jiang Yunbai glanced at Zhang Guohua. He was really a fool, no wonder he had been working for so many years and was still a small employee. If it were her position in Zhang Guohua, she would have been doing well for a long time, but unfortunately, she could only vent her dissatisfaction in her heart. Zhang Guohua had no idea that Jiang Yun was full of anger towards him, or even if he knew, he wouldn't care. Zhang Dagui and the other three are almost ready to rest. Seeing Zhang Guohua and his wife arrive overnight, they are still a bit surprised. Zhang Yu greeted them and continued to prepare to pack up. If she guessed correctly, Zhang Guohua and his wife would come over, probably looking for her. Jiang Yun saw Zhang Yu preparing to go upstairs and said, Xiao Yu, are you ready? I'm leaving tomorrow, but my things haven't been packed yet. I need to go up and pack them. Zhang Yu said she was very busy. Let me help you tidy up together. Jiang Yun enthusiastically said that she came to help. Help her pack up. My God, Zhang Yu said he really feels a sense of being flattered. Sister-in-law, don't worry, I'll just tidy it up on my own. If you have time, help your parents pack up their things. Humph, Zhang Yu looked at Pan Wan. Mom, don't worry. Although I'm not at home, with my sister-in-law around, she will definitely help you pack up. Don't worry, Zhang Yu said loudly, taking advantage of the situation and letting the neighbors passing by know that the eldest daughter-in-law of the Zhang family is a hardworking person. Knowing that Zhang Yu is going to work in another city, he is rushing to help tidy up his things. There are also people who will tidy up things when Zhang's family moves in the future. The best way to deal with people who want face is, of course, through the public opinion of those around them. Everyone knows that Jiang Yun will help Zhang Dagui and his wife tidy up their things. Would she dare to shoulder the burden and not help clean up in the future? At that time, the neighbors around will mutter a little in front of Zhang Dagui and his wife. What should they do to see Jiang Yun and his wife? Zhang Yu could have guessed that at that time, no matter how unhappy Jiang Yun was in his heart, he still had to help tidy up his things. Perhaps he would regret his heart. Only those who have cleaned up know that Zhang Dugui and his wife can really compare to Pixiu. As long as something enters the house, don't expect them to throw it away. For example, this time we are moving, even if we tell them to move to a new house, these old things are not pleasing to the eye no matter how they look, but they just need to be cleaned up. When they receive a new house for renovation, no matter how beautiful the house is, no matter how out of place and eye-catching these things are after moving to the new house, they insist on moving to the new house. But it really infuriated the original owner, and although Zhang Guohua and his team found it unpleasant, they remained silent. Anyway, the money for decorating the house is not from them, and the house is not where they live, let alone cleaning. They certainly wouldn't speak out to refute, and advised the original owner not to haggle over these small matters. They also said that as the elderly get older, they should obey them. I just don't know if their mindset can still be the same as before if it were them organizing things and cleaning the house this time. But perhaps no matter how much dissatisfaction they have in their hearts, they won't say it. Anyway, they don't want to say it, so they can only work hard. Jiang Yun didn't expect Zhang Yu's mouth to be so eloquent, and she even asked her to help Zhang Dugui and his wife tidy up their things. No matter how much she wanted to curse in her heart at this moment, she knew that not only Zhang Dugui and his wife were watching from the side, but the surrounding residents were also listening from the side. Anyway, the matter of saving face must be grasped, that's for sure. After all, I'm the eldest wife. Humph, we also need to let that old couple know that as the only grandson who gave birth to the Zhang family, she cannot be mistreated, otherwise it will be more chilling to hear about. Zhang Yu cannot be certain whether Zhang Dugui and his wife understood the meaning behind Jiang Yun's words, as she did. Isn't someone very fond of talking about their long-term daughter-in-law? Let her feel how their long-term daughter-in-law does it. Yes, sister-in-law, you are the eldest wife of the Zhang family. Of course, we will follow you. It's up to you, sister-in-law, to handle all the big and small things at home. I believe that with your efforts, your parents and I can move and tidy up the house very well. This way, I can work in another city and feel at ease. Since you insist on putting on airs, let's work hard. What? Jiang Yun didn't expect that her habitual words would make Zhang Yu push the boat so smoothly. I really want to handle it alone, but my power alone. Jiang Yun was about to curse in her heart, but what could she do? Did she jump up and say that she has to work during the day and tidy up at night, really treating her like Superman? But she dare not. After all, Zhang Yu has been working again, doing household chores after work, and having busy weekends. It can be said that the result of this confrontation with Zhang Yu made Jiang Yun very unhappy, full of anger, but she still didn't know how to vent her anger. Of course, if I have free time, I will also come back. Zhang Yu also knew that he couldn't make Jiang Yun angry, so he made a promise. Although I really don't want to come back, moving and packing things is such a big deal that I can't really not come back. But coming back once is enough. Anyway, the main force packing things this time will definitely not be her. I will come back on Saturday morning and then leave on Sunday afternoon. I have to stay at home and tidy up for the whole afternoon and morning. Not bad, not bad. Zhang Yu only shouted in her heart, saying that it should be done this way. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Unmarried Women 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Unmarried Women 9. Although Jiang Yun also wanted Zhang Yu to make a promise to come back every week to help pack things, she dared not. After all, she is going to a new position and I don't know how many friends she will need to make after arriving there, plus there are significant negotiations going on. Zhang Yu, the representative who will go to the headquarters, will definitely be fully involved throughout the process. In short, he will definitely be busy and may not come back every week. Jiang Yun could only hope that Zhang Yu couldn't bear to keep her husband and wife busy and would often come back. By the way, Xiao Yu, after you arrive over there, will there be any housing issues? Since everyone has already arrived, whether or not you have obtained the desired result, you cannot just leave like this. It is still necessary to ask a little about the situation. I just went to stay at a hotel over there, but I can't stay for a long time because it's inconvenient and the prices are also expensive. So I'm going to look at the house on the weekend and try to rent it within this week. Then we need to arrange and tidy up the things. I don't know if we can rent a house this week or if we can tidy up the house next week. Zhang Yu made a simple schedule, and if we follow her plan, of course, we hope to rent a house this week. But there are some things that she really can't do whatever she wants, they still need to be seen. Upon hearing this, Jiang Yun's heart couldn't stop falling. Listen to what this person is saying. Rent a house this week and try to decorate it next week. That means don't expect her to come back and tidy up things in the next 2 weeks. This immediately made her anxious. When do you plan to come back and pack your things? I won't have to look at Zhang Hong in their faces again, will I? Thinking of this, her expression immediately became very displeased. I'm not sure about that either. I haven't been there yet, and I don't know how the work will be. After all, I wasn't a mascot in the past, and I also had to make achievements. Mom and Dad, do you also support me to work well in another city? Humph, she didn't expect Jiang Yun to take care of her, and she didn't expect Zhang Dague and his wife to give her anything. So in this way, she is also too lazy to show any signs. Anyway, it's just a lack of desires and demands, just do her job well. What can Zhang Dague and his wife do, even though it is unlikely that Zhang Yu will come back to help pack things after she goes out, but now that she has spoken, what can everyone do? Zhang Dague was very unhappy in his heart, thinking that Zhang Yu was becoming increasingly disobedient. He decided to give Zhang Yu a good lesson. Otherwise, I really thought she was just as powerful. Xiao Yu, you're going to work in another city, and your brother and I are also very uneasy. After all, you have never left this city, Jiang Yun said with reluctance. She really has a big opinion about Zhang Yu's decision not to take on the responsibility of Hizimu. I know, but I've been thinking a lot lately. They all say that children who have always been by their parents' side will never grow up and will never make a name for themselves. But if I were to change jobs and start going out of town, I didn't have the courage either. The leader gave me a chance this time, and I just want to go out and give it a try. I also want to prove myself. I was originally aware of the leader's arrangements, and I was also worried about what my parents would do if I went to work in another city. But now I can rest assured that when I get the house next year, my big brother, second brother, and elder sister's house will be nearby, and I can also take care of my parents, so I can rest assured. Jiang Yun watched the conversation confidently, talking about how good the leader was and whether the older brothers and sisters above would take good care of Zhang Dague and his wife. She felt at ease. At this moment, she suddenly had a thought that after taking down the house, she felt that it was really too bad. I could have used the reason that it's a bit far from where Zhang Dague and his wife live, so don't come here frequently. Can there still be an excuse and reason after obtaining a new house? Without Zhang Yu, who is quick to do things and often receives training, Jiang Yun is really worried that she will become the person who receives the most training. Don't worry, your elder brother and sister in law, they will definitely take care of us, said Zhang Dague impatiently. I have also planned to rent a house, and I will rent it near your brother's house. When you get a new house, take the house opposite your brother's door. Your second brother and your sister's house is nearby. If possible, choose a house in the same building. Zhang Dague believes that Zhang Shouhua and his team should definitely support this choice. After all, only when the whole family gathers together can it be more lively, and don't panic when encountering things. Living door to door with the old man, the other two children live in the same building, and the difference between the two is also quite significant. At the time of the original owner, although they were all relocated houses, they were all in the same community, which was a bit distant. More importantly, except for Zhang Yi who moved in due to marriage, both Zhang Shouhua and Zhang Hong's houses are for rent. This time, the old man spoke up, hoping that the house could be in the same building. not just hoping that if possible, it would also be possible to move into a new house. Such a big change, Zhang Yu really wants to ask, is it because of her relationship? However, it is also known that even if she asks out loud, Zhang Dague will not admit it. He will definitely say that this is a decision that has been made for a long time. Anyway, whether they live upstairs and downstairs or have the same arrangements as in their previous lives is their responsibility, and it has nothing to do with her little daughter who is about to go to work in another city. Dad, I think this arrangement is good so that you can often see my brother and them and take care of each other. I just don't know if they can still adhere to the fine tradition of having meals at Zhang Dague's place every week under such circumstances. No matter what the situation may evolve into in the later stages, at least at this point, the starting point is good. Zhang Dague doesn't even want to listen to Zhang Yu's advice. If it weren't for her, would they be so busy now? It is uncertain that the selection of housing types has already begun early, and then the issue of compensation will be discussed with the demolition office. In Zhang Dague's eyes, the conditions or agreements previously given would never be signed, so we still need to continue negotiations. When Zhang Guohua and his wife heard Zhang Dague's words, they were going crazy. Unexpectedly, I have to live in a house opposite the door of Zhang Dague and his wife. Isn't that the first thing that comes to mind when encountering problems in the future? If Zhang Yu comes back, Zhang Dague and his wife don't need them to worry, some people will. But the problem is that I don't know how many years Zhang Yu will work in another city. If he stays in another city all the time, wouldn't it be their responsibility for Zhang Dague and his wife in the future? Jiang Yun thought of having to take care of Zhang Dague and his wife every day, as well as Zhang Guohua and his son. She really couldn't bear it anymore, she was really tired. Looking pitifully at Zhang Yu, I could only hope that she could come back from out of town soon so that someone could take care of her. Jiang Yun looked straight at her, and Zhang Yu could certainly feel something, hoping that if possible, he could come back early. She can only express that if possible, she also hopes to come back, but as a lonely old lady, she cannot ignore the issue of elderly care, so she needs to work hard to earn money and save money now. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. No Room Female Supporting 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. No Room Female Supporting 10. Jiang Yun touched a nose of dust in front of the three members of the Zhang family, and on the way back in anger, began scolding Zhang Guohua. I'm really angry about your parents and your sister. I shouldn't have gone there. Zhang Guohua was driving a motorcycle in front, listening to Jiang Yun's discontented murmurs. He actually wanted to say that he had already said not to go home, but he couldn't resist someone insisting on going over. What could he do? It's all right now. I didn't take advantage of it, so I threw my anger at him. He actually wanted to argue, but he didn't dare. Your parents are the same. In the past, opening and closing up was just how we managed to be good, but now we need their help. Look at what they said, where did they help us? I'm really angry. I really feel like you're just taking on the title of the eldest son, but when it really benefits, you don't have a share. Zhang Guohua pursed his lips and drove quietly. Since Jiang Yun was very unhappy in her heart, let her vent a little bit. Jiang Yun muttered all the way to her home. According to Zhang Guohua's calculation, Jiang Yun should not mutter anymore. However, she didn't expect to make an estimation error this time. Even after arriving home, Jiang Yun kept muttering incessantly, what can she do? Zhang Yi went out to dinner with his colleagues today and heard some noise coming from the living room. He walked out and said, Mom and Dad, where did you go? Where else can we go, to your grandfather's house? Jiang Yun knew that it was impossible to gain Zhang Guohua's approval, and he still had to bring Zhang Yi along. Zhang Yi never expected such a thing to happen again. It's normal for my aunt not to get married, and it's not necessary for her grandparents to not give her a house. She doesn't have to care about her grandparents either. She is also too unfilial in this way. Zhang Yi didn't think it was excessive for the Zhang family to divide the house without Zhang Yu's share, but instead felt that Zhang Yu was not filial. That's right, they even said they may not have time to come back and tidy up their things. Xiaoyi, you haven't seen your grandparents' things. You said I have to go to work on a regular basis and pack my things when I get home. I don't have the strength. Zhang Yi, of course, stood on Jiang Yun's side. Regarding Zhang Yu, he had heard from a young age that from Zhang Degui to Zhang Hong, it was her dissatisfaction, and it was useless to say anything about her. In the hearts of Zhang Yi and the other 3 children, they have no respect for Zhang Yu at all, thinking that she is just an elder, but they have no ability or anything. Now that he knows what Zhang Yu has done, he is really angry and picks up the phone to make a call. Jiang Yun saw Zhang Yu pick up the microphone and said, "What are you doing?" "I called Zhang Yu and I want to ask her carefully. Where did her grandparents treat her unfairly? How could she ignore the second elder?" Zhang Guohua heard Zhang Yi calling out Zhang Yu's name directly. Although he thought it was not good, he still remained silent, otherwise he would definitely scold the mother and son. The phone rang at home, and if Zhang Yu was at home, she would answer it. Just as I picked up the phone, I heard the message from the other end. Zhang Yu. When Zhang Yu heard this voice, although she felt a bit familiar, she didn't remember who it was. Hesitated for a moment. "Hello, I'm Zhang Yu, are you?" Zhang Yi said angrily, "I'm Zhang Yi, how can you?" Zhang Yi had figured out how to scold Zhang Yu, but before he could play, he heard a beeping sound coming from the other end of the phone. Zhang Yi couldn't help but be stunned, thinking about some situation, and then hung up the phone. Zhang Yu didn't expect that it was actually Zhang Yi who called, and she also knew that in the eyes of the Zhang family, she was just various contemptuous beings. The result is that now she just calls her name directly. The original owner may have endured it, but why did she endure it? Can we still expect them to provide her with retirement? Unless she has money on hand, but if she has money, does she still need them? Just as I turned around and was about to leave, I heard the phone continue to ring. As soon as I picked it up, I heard the other end of the phone start cursing. She was too lazy to hang up this time, so she put it on the table and went to pack things. If someone insisted on doing this, let him vent well. Zhang Yu went to take a shower, then washed the changed clothes directly, and hung them on the balcony to dry. After all these things are settled, go to the other end of the phone and see if the call ends. Hearing the beeping sound on the other end of the phone, I happily hung up. Zhang Yu thought that she had already cooled down twice just now, so she shouldn't be looking for her again. However, there are some things that cannot be inferred from common sense. As soon as she returned to her room, she heard the phone ring again. Helpless, she could only answer the phone again. Originally, she wanted to educate Zhang Yi well. But when she answered the phone again, she heard Zhang Yi spitting out fragrance again. This kind of Zhang Yi made Zhang Yu give up the idea of education. I also know that Zhang Guohua and his wife should be by Zhang Yi's side at this moment. Just calling this kid repeatedly and scolding her so fiercely, knowing that Zhang Guohua and his wife have never educated them. Since as parents, they have never thought about educating their children well, why should she, the lowest level person in the Zhang family, educate the eldest grandson of the Zhang family? This kid is really tall these years, but in terms of his brain, he hasn't recharged much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to work for a good state-owned enterprise under the operation of Zhang Guohua and his wife. As long as he develops step by step, he can also become a small leader. But as a result, this guy was holding a good hand and playing a garbage card. Although there was someone on top and someone pushing behind, he didn't make any progress for more than 10 years. This completely shows that Zhang Yi is just a piece of mud that cannot be lifted. If that's the case, then let's continue making the mud. Zhang Yu spoke up. If you want to curse, curse. Remember, your father is the eldest son, your mother is the eldest daughter. In law, and you are the eldest grandson. Zhang Yu. Since your parents keep mentioning this identity, should they take on more responsibility? Zhang Yu. Don't always think about taking more property, but don't want to take responsibility. If I give up the property of the Zhang family, or if I don't even consider giving me 1 or 2 properties, then I can't always think about taking full responsibility. Zhang Yu. Parents are everyone's parents. Why do your parents help tidy up things and have a lot of opinions? Zhang Yu. If you think your parents can't do this much work and you're filial, why don't you help with it? Zhang Yu. I despise this unfilial behavior all day long. If you are filial, then you should go ahead. Otherwise, I don't want BBB. Zhang Yu. Alright, I hung up the phone, so don't make any more calls. After Zhang Yu finished speaking, he hung up the phone directly and then dismantled the phone line along the way. It's really a case of all kinds of filial piety on their lips, but they are not willing to work one by one, and they still have the face to say how unfilial they are. It's really getting used to them. Zhang Yu knew that after hanging up this phone call, he would definitely make Zhang Yi half angry, but no one would definitely get used to them. End of this chapter.